gentlemen, welcome to the Big Honker Podcast, brought to you by Boss Shot Shells. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world fucking famous Andy Shaver.
What are you doing over there? You're I got your phone up. You got your headphones off.
I'm filming Lee.
Oh, okay.
I was going to film our intro.
We've got the living legend, the man that I want to be whenever I finally grow up. Lee Kjos.
No, you don't.
I'm telling you what, you're living the dream.
He's at a come-and-go truck stop on I-35, and that's the dream, huh, Lee?
On my way to go kill greenheads with the mayor. Yep.
You got the call, so it's time to hit the road. They're showing
Yeah,
up.
that's right. Yep.
So
Yep.
last year, nobody got into Canada. How was it this year?
Right.
Was it the best thing in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome to be back.
Pretty.
Yeah, for me it was. I mean, I get go ahead.
Pretty close to heaven, as close as you can get, at least down here.
Well, I mean, I've been on before, and for those people that know me, I mean, I'm a DIY guy at heart, and I cut my teeth up on the prairie, on the northern prairies, and especially in Canada. And I did a big project for Benelli a couple years ago that took a lot of time. Did I lose you guys?
No, you're here.
We're good.
You're just a little glitch. You're good.
Okay. Then, and I lost that year. I didn't get to go to Canada because I was on Adak Island in Alaska working for Benelli for most of the month. And then, of course, last year was the COVID stuff, and that killed that, and it killed the spring season for white geese. And so it had been a long time since I'd been back, and I'm not used to that, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I think I told you guys, like, earlier this year, I had prostate cancer surgery, and I took care of that. And, you start, and I mean, the vaccine thing that you had to get into Canada,
Right.
Was that something that I thought long and hard about? And yeah, it was. It really was. And am I guess, I mean, could you consider me an anti-vaxxer? No, I don't think that would be accurate. If it weren't for going to Canada, would I got vaccinated? No, I probably wouldn't have. But I'm 61 years old. Life changes. There's lots of things that happen in our lives, and including mine this past year or two. And I'm like, I'm going to Canada. I'm going duck hunting, right? So, and there was this app, this travel can app or something like that you put your passport in, and I've probably been through those borders 100 times, right, in my life. And I mean, I've never seen it easier than it was getting in. It's never been easier coming out. It was, so that was a non-factor. So let's leave that off the table right now. I mean, it was fantastic to be back in Canada, Saskatchewan and Alberta both. No.
Now, why do you think it was so easy to get across? Just because they wanted the American hunter up there, so they didn't want to bust their balls too much?
I think, I guess you're asking. Would just be an opinion. I don't have any to back any of this up. There might even been some of it where they don't want you to come in. They don't want you to get out of your truck and come in.
Right, so they're just shuffle you through.
Maybe. But, I mean, here's the other thing. Incredibly polite. Like, sometimes it's not.
Right.
Sometimes it's not so. Sometimes it's kind of the, whatever card they play. I don't know. I'm not picking on them. I love Canadians, especially Western Canadians. So, no, I don't know. I don't know why, but it was incredibly easy, and it was awfully good to be back on the prairie and seeing the birds and the weather. And
how did you time it? Was the migration, because you went a month ago? Was it mid-October?
Yeah, I would say about a month ago I was there.
What was the migration like? Was it just kicking off, or did you time it pretty good?
Early, I would say early still, because there was still a lot of brown ducks still, but you guys know my work as a photographer, and those flocks of massive flocks of greenheads and stuff, late season birds, and I didn't see any of that.
Right.
I didn't see that. But
what about the numbers?
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking. Oh yeah, shooting numbers. Yeah, that wasn't a problem. No. Mm-mm. No.
They were everywhere.
No, that wasn't well, I mean, it's
Canada.
And in certain areas, when you're in the right area, yeah, they're there. That's where they are, right?
Yeah. So,
yep.
Hold on. You told me before that you had a secret little holes that you went to that just you know about, but you said as time has elapsed over the time, you're seeing more and more people around these places.
Oh yeah. That area that I used to hunt for, I would say, the good portion of the last 20 years it's dead now. Dead.
That's a shame.
Dead to me. It's dead to me.
Right.
It's dead to me. And you could say, well, what does that mean? Well, I mean, how I hunt, like what I like to do and how I hunt, it's dead to me. Yeah. Nowhere near what it used to be.
That's really dry up there right now, right?
It is. Yep. It is dry. Prairie, East River, Dakotas is starting to look a lot better, though. We're getting some rain. Minnesota's getting some rain now, and it's starting to feel a little better, but yeah, it's dry.
See,
yeah.
And that's just so weird because, I mean, when you were a kid, I'm sure, you had white Halloweens, I'm sure. Do you remember trick-or-treating in the snow?
Well, I remember the Halloween blizzard, 29.6 inches.
Holy cow.
In 91. You remember that movie, The Perfect Storm?
Yes.
That was the perfect storm that moved east.
Oh.
Went across the Great Lakes and up to the north.
That was it.
Nor'easter, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll be damned.
But yeah, we talk about this all the time, dudes up here in, Minnesota and in the north up here, what the opening of deer hunting season, which was last weekend, rifle season, what that used to be like up here as a kid. Well, it was 65 degrees Saturday.
Right.
It was 65 and sunny. I mean, normally we were shooting bluebills and giant late season whistlers on big water back in the day on opening a deer hunting season. And now we're just waiting to see what you would call a movement of birds from the north,
Yeah.
I went to a farm in Britt, Minnesota, Virginia, Britt area back in the probably 91, 92, 93, somewhere around that time. And the guy was there was telling me about his deer stands, and he had his deer stand was tall and thin, but he had a wood burning stove in the bottom of it, and that way he could hunt when it was 20 and 30 below zero. And I kept thinking, God almighty, that'd be miserable, but that's what it took. But you were talking about that nor'eastern storm for the perfect storm. I was in Gloucester last month, and they have the plaque, and I started looking at it and how many people died in all those because Gloucester, they lose someone every year just about in a boating accident. But back in the late 1800s and 1900s, they would lose 70 to 200 men every year from that community that would die in boating, and they'd all have the last names, and thought, man, what a horrible freaking way of life. But
man, tough.
But back then, though, we had a lot more winter, and I know the equipment wasn't as good, but we don't have winters like we used to, not even close.
I don't think so either. And you can, I guess the debate would be like why it's happening, but I think to deny that it's warming is like foolish to deny that it is, or something's changing. I mean, I don't know what, like I said, that could be the debate, but in my lifetime, I mean, I can see it in animals, birds, moose, migration. I can see it in all that.
It's a cyclical deal for sure, and it's
right.
And there's been times that they used to have a Renaissance festival in London, England, and they would have it on no, it was not a Renaissance. It was a winter festival on the Thames River is what it is, the Thames River there. And back in the 1800s, they had it for a long time. It was on ice. And then they didn't have it because they didn't have ice for 20 or 30 years. And then it come back again in the late 1800s and early 1900s again. So this ain't the first time in life that we've went through this. But we have overpopulated this rock. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, there's something going on there. Like I said, I see a difference in animal behavior, and that tells me that something's definitely different. I mean, what it is, I don't know. I mean, it's for sure warming. Like, we have issues with moose population in northern Minnesota, northwestern and northeastern Minnesota. There's just nowhere near the moose there used to be, right? Well, I just was reading here not long ago. I think it's a tick. It's some kind of. It's not West Nile. West Nile's getting to the rough grouse, but it's a tick, and because of the temperature is just a tiny bit warmer, and I don't mean like a big deal warmer, a tiny bit warmer, but on the average, it keeps that tick on that moose for like 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks more.
Right.
And that makes all the difference in survival on that moose. It's just bizarre. I mean, can you imagine if that's really what we're talking about is a couple degrees?
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's making that big of a difference in the moose population.
It is kind of scary, it is kind of scary when you think about it, because there are animals that can't tolerate that.
Yes.
But
what about
maybe it's supposed to happen. I don't know.
What
don't
about
think
the
so,
wolf? Because the wolf is is detrimental to all that stuff too up there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, wolves are hell on whitetail and moose, yeah.
And they've got a lot more moose. They got a lot more wolves than they used to up there, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I grew up in northern Minnesota, right?
Right.
I grew up in between Marcel and Big Fork, Minnesota. Graduated from Deer River. There was, I mean, I think the sportsmen kind of took care of that stuff on their own back in the day.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Without,
a lot of heartburn for them things.
Well, yeah, I mean, without causing trouble or anything like that. I just think
common sense prevailed.
Well, times were different. Let's just leave it at that. Right?
But it just, I mean, today it's gonna be warm today here, and then we got a little cool. We got a north wind basically. It's gonna cool it down a little bit, but I got a closet full of Filson that I hardly ever get to wear anymore, and it's just it's depressing. I got thousands of dollars of hunting shit, and I mean most of the days I can do it in a t-shirt.
I've been hunting a bunch this year already, and I've been in Arkansas. I did a teal hunt down there that was fantastic, and I did that early speckle belly thing, and I was teal hunting in Kansas and Missouri and stuff like that. It's just warm. I actually put on a pair of waders one day, and when I was in Arkansas, and the only thing I had on it underneath it was my underwear I was wearing. And I'm like, I looked at these guys I was with, and I'm like, you guys have no idea how bizarre this is for me.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, where I hunt, it's cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're always cold. Always.
I just there's gonna be a winter, I hope, in my lifetime where it's just a ball buster. Because I'm 34. I don't really remember a winter where it was just like cold all the time. Now I remember my memories. There's times I remember as a kid being cold and it being cold, but I don't remember like long stretches.
We haven't had a real winter since probably I think 2001, 2002, we had a pretty good winter, and I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to go to my kinfolks for Thanksgiving every year, and I remember we used to play football outside, and they had a beautiful yard, and in Thanksgiving every year, it was all dead grass we were playing on. I mean, it was because it had a hard freeze, and it looked like winter. There was no leaves on the trees and stuff. It don't look like that shit no more at all. My leaves on my yard's green. I'm going to have my yard mowed next week.
Yeah.
I mean, we're mowing my yard all the way up to Thanksgiving these days. And we used to mow. We used to mow the yard and put our Halloween decorations out, and then I didn't have to mow it again. That was usually the last time I mowed it. And now I mow my yard Thanksgiving, and I wouldn't be surprised if I mow it for December if things don't change.
All right. The measure that we used to use. Man, I know I'm sure probably people get tired of like the back in the day stuff, but guys say I'm 61. When I was when I was in high school, we were on the ice fishing by Thanksgiving.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt
We're
it.
ice fishing.
Lee, we're the last generation of stories to be told about back in the day because we don't – when Andy's our age, he's going to say, well, here, I can show you on my phone all this shit. We can't do that.
Right.
So there's nothing for us to back it up. So it don't matter how shitty or great it was. We can make it sound the way we want it to sound because there's no digital proof. But you're right. Life was so much simpler back before the cell phone.
Oh, incredible. Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I loved it. I loved the 70s. Everything about it.
Yep.
Yeah, Ron said, Jeff's dad, the 70s were the best time. Rock and roll music was great. Yeah, exactly right. So what do you listen to on these long road trips? What's your music of choice?
Allman Brothers, Zeppelin, Skinner, Marshall Tucker. When I want something mellow, I switch over and I listen to John Prine, things like that.
Okay, so let me ask you a question because Jeff and I had this debate. Who is better, Skinner or CCR?
Oh, Skinner, that's not even close. That's a stupid question.
Thank you so much.
That's a stupid question.
I tell him that all the time.
Lee.
No, good Lord, dude. CCR is like, no, dude.
Lynyrd
Skynyrd is one of the greatest bands ever.
CCR didn't influence anybody.
Bingo.
Well,
Skynyrd influenced a lot of people.
I think CCR had better music.
No.
I think they had better songs.
No,
I think the laundry list is longer in CCR's favor.
Well, they lasted a lot longer. They are a good band. There's no doubt.
Dude, Skynyrd's first album, Pronounced, right?
Yes.
Okay, there's 4 tunes on that album that are mind blowers, right? CCR doesn't have any mind blowers.
I'm going to take your word for it. I'm looking through the lens of 50 years ago.
Is Freebird one?
Yes.
3 Steps?
Yep.
Tuesday's Gone?
Yep.
Simple Man?
Yes.
You want any more?
Curtis
Keep
Blow.
going. That's the second album. That's Second Helping.
No, but that's to me is one of their best tunes ever. And Needle and Spoon.
It's fantastic. Needle and Spoon's big time.
Yep.
That Needle and Spoon at the live version on One More from the Road is way good. So is T for Texas on that one. One of my favorites from them. But they were spectacular live.
Really?
Oh yeah, they were one of the best live bands all time, for sure.
Did you watch the Netflix special on Lynyrd Skynyrd?
Yeah, of course.
That's
what started this whole thing. I told Andy.
Yeah, of course.
But the way that those guys partied back in the day.
Yep, they all did.
Oh my.
Well, that was. I think that would. Don't you think that's kind of like part of the deal, though?
Yes.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
I mean that. They lived. Oh yeah, they lived hard. I mean, but that was.
That was the 70s.
It was the 70s, dude.
I'll tell you an 80s band,
right.
An 80s band that I think could have been as good as Skynyrd if they would have kept to business was Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses was a very good band.
No, they were. I agree 100%. Axl was just an absolute
asshole,
lunatic,
an absolute lunatic, right? What I liked about, here's the other thing. I mean, think about that. Think about GNR and what they did and who they are is basically from Appetite.
Yep, no doubt about it.
I mean, it's really about all there is, right? And they were the anti to the glam band bullshit.
Yep.
Right? So I kind of liked that they brought the raunch back into rock, right?
Yeah,
and so I agree with you. I really liked the Crew too.
Yeah,
Motley Crue was good.
I like Motley Crue. My favorite band of all time was a glam band, but I was a Van Halen guy, and I liked.
Oh well, that's undeniable, dude. Eddie Van Halen's the best rock guitarist of all time.
Bingo. We had that conversation too, Andy.
I said,
he is.
Hendrix.
Me and Lee are 100%.
Oh yeah, dude. A different era. And definitely one influenced the other. I'll give you that. That's a little bit of a different era. back when Hendrix was doing it, no. I mean, dude, there's absolutely nothing, not even remotely close to what he was like. Straight hardcore rock, like rock guitar being like, you know, an innovator and stuff like that. No, Eddie was breathing different air.
I recently saw the thing I like to do late at night when all the kids are asleep is I'll go on YouTube and I'll look at different guitar legends play different licks.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is about it, but and Stevie Ray Vaughan was playing something the other night, and I can't even remember what it was, but it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. The sounds he was getting out of that guitar was amazing.
Little Sister.
So I was just gonna say, you got to watch Little Sister live.
I'm gonna check it out
and watch him do that, and then watch him do what's that tune live from El Macambo he did. I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
He was phenomenal.
I think it was Voodoo Child.
Yeah, I mean it could be.
I'm looking like I'm trying to see if I remember the
Little Wing. I mean when he covered the Hendrix tunes. I mean, yeah.
I'll tell you somebody.
I mean he's
somebody I never saw that I would have wished I would have seen was Joe Cocker.
You know, Joe Cocker played at First Avenue in Minneapolis. I remember it, but I wasn't there. And that is one that, like, I think about, like, damn, I missed that, you know? But I didn't miss a lot.
He was a good one, too.
I'm so jealous because music today, it's just like everything. Everything's cheap now. There is no soul behind anything anymore. Like even hunting. Hunting, you know, so many people do it for Instagram likes and they do it for the wrong reason. I can only imagine what it was like getting a record back in the 70s, bringing it home, taking the plastic off of it, putting it on a record player, whatever you were going to put it on, and just fucking sitting back and having 12 songs or however many songs that was just fire the entire time.
Spinning vinyl, dude.
I mean, I'm jealous of that.
Here's how cool. Well, yeah, I get that. You should be jealous of that. That's a good thing to be jealous of.
Yeah,
listening to the radio is the same way.
Here's one of the coolest vinyl things of all time. And when you guys have Brandon on all the time. Get Brandon going on this one because we talk about this. Because you know how I'm into Brand, right? I'm a nerd, right? Okay, so Zepp 4, right? Zeppelin 4. Well, I know it really doesn't even have a name. Some people call it, you know, Zoso. Some people call it Cymbals. Some people call it 4 Sticks because the old dude, you know, walking up the deal with the sticks on his back. Do you realize on that album there's not one piece of branding on the whole album?
Really?
No name.
Nothing.
No nothing. Not the brand. Not the band. Nothing. So the record company, I think it was Atlantic, but I could be flagged for that one. But I think, and they, as it goes, there was a meeting, and Jimmy Page was the leader of Zepp, and Page said, because they told him this is marketing suicide to come out with an album, and Page is like, no, they'll find it, right? Yeah. That's big balls when it comes to branding. You put out an album and there's nothing on it.
And
nothing.
They'll find it.
They'll find it. And that's Stairway to Heaven, Black Dog, all, you know. I mean, it's awesome.
But see, today there's not no music like that. And it's the same as the radio. You're 10 years older than me, but you're the same generations of, you turn the radio on. When you got in a car, you listen to the radio. And when you went to the next town or the next town over, when you lost that signal, you knew the next radio station. And everybody listened to the radio. And if you saw a car pull up the stop sign, they were listening to the same radio. And if you went into a business or whatever it is, everybody listened to today's music. I couldn't tell you today a new musician in a new band. I couldn't. I don't have a clue.
No, I mean, other than going to see the little live shows around town, especially in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, it takes us about an hour to get in there, but you know, it's a really good music town live. But of course, COVID killed that for quite a while. But I mean, other than seeing somebody come up that you're like, damn, they're good, and then you kind of follow them around or whatever. But you know what? The stuff that I even see do that, those, they really don't have any chance of making it.
Yeah.
The kind of music that I'd like, or probably you guys might like to listen. No, they're not going to make it in the, because now circling back to what you said about music, there's no bands anymore.
Right.
No.
There's no bands. There's entertainers, and I'm not, that's good for them and stuff like that, but it's not what I went to see. I can tell you.
Right.
Right? I mean, I grew up with the bands.
Now,
and I wonder what shifted to where we got to this. What is it the record labels that are, because they make all the money when you go out on the road.
I
you get this entertainer money, right? That can put on a hell of a show like Britney Spears or whatever, right, that is going to have flames shooting out of her tits.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you,
Taylor Swift.
I'll tell you what killed a lot of it, in my opinion, is that we got away from black music and they got into rap and shit. And
I mean, like soul, R&B?
Back in the day, you could go see a Stevie Wonder, or you could go see, you saw black bands, man, and they got it going on, and they had a lot of rhythm, and then it got to rap. Well, hell, I don't want to listen to rap stuff, but I think that's when it broke apart, is when that kind of music become popular. You got rid of the Four Tops and the bands like that. Even, you're a Minneapolis guy. Did you ever see Morse Day in the Time?
No, but, I mean, obviously I know. No, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He was a good. They put good music out. It was R&B. Same with Prince.
Mm-hmm.
There aren't bands like that no more that I know of.
No. That's what I think. I just don't think there's the bands, and I loved seeing the bands.
Yeah,
just loved it.
And the only new push of new music right now is the Texas Red Dirt stuff, and I don't know what makes something red dirt and what makes it country, but I think the Red Dirt stuff, is it closer to the Southern rock stuff?
Maybe it might have that outlaw feel.
I don't know. I think even I hear like some of the newer dudes that are out there, and especially bro country, which I'm like a zero fan of any of that, and then I can't remember who it was. It was this, like, I saw something on, I think it was Access TV, because that's a pretty cool station. They go back, they do some cool stuff. God, the other night, dude, it was Clapton live in 78, or live in 1980 in San Diego, Clapton live, and
Cocaine and
I
Layla.
believe, oh, dude, and Derek Trucks, right? So, Tedeschi Trucks Band.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Trucks was like playing guitar with him on it. Oh my God, was it good? I mean, really, I watched that stuff and I'm like, God, was that music good back then?
Even the 70s country, Merle Haggard.
Oh, well, that is country.
That's right. And I was listening to it the other day. I've got a channel on my phone that comes over my Bluetooth, and it was one after another, and I drove for 2 hours, and it was constant, and it was everything from Johnny Paycheck, Jerry Reed, Merle Haggard. It was the stuff from the 70s that I grew up listening to, John Anderson, and I thought, there's not music like this no more.
No.
You could hear the words and the music.
Right. I mean, I think there's some good, like, outlaw country dudes out there right now, that still do music in that vein, like I think Jamie Johnson's
he's
big
very
time.
good.
I like Jamie Johnson.
He's awesome. He's really good to see live. A number of those guys are, we going country. You could check this one out, but I think the first country album that ever cracked 1 million was the Outlaws with Waylon Willie, Jesse Coulter, and Tom Paul. I think that was number one the first time that it did it. And then I think Willie, right after that, or not long after that, did Stardust.
That was a huge album.
Oh my God. And do you ever read like the amount of static that he got? Well, you know what? The reason they're called the Outlaws is because they told the record companies to go pound sand.
Yep.
That's why. Right. So yeah, it's a pretty cool story. If people want to dig into that one, that whole deal on how those guys did that was pretty cool. And I look at Waylon and Willie and George Jones and Merle, and I mean, I still love all of it. You know,
that Stardust. I have not heard that Willie Nelson Stardust in a long time.
Dude,
gosh almighty.
Well, yeah, you know, like he covered Crazy, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, stuff like that. He covered those tunes, and they were like, dude, this is going to be a complete flop. No, not a flop.
Not at all.
No.
There's gonna come a time where there's gonna be. I have hope that we're gonna see a shift where we go back to some of that, and like to where we appreciate.
I hope so.
I hope for my kids' sake, I hope so, because
I hope so.
What's going to be hard for my kids is that's going to be like I'm old enough to where like I heard, you know, Jeff talk about it or my grandparents, but you know, my kid, he's going to get robbed of it because the 70s are going to be light years away by the time he finally starts taking an interest in music. So I hope that there's a day where we get back to this.
I'll say this, and I'm not. Maybe it's because my children grew up with me as their dad or whatever, but they listen to 70s rock.
Right.
And they're 35 and 38 and 40.
Yeah.
I mean, I think and the reason I'm saying that is I think that era of music is definitely going to stand the test of time forever. I'm not sure if anything now will.
No.
I don't. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to sound like an old guy that's completely out of touch, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
Seems like not my bag for sure.
Today, not very many songs. Like I would say in the last 10 years, Jamie Johnson's In Color's a timeless song. That'll be around forever.
Oh, it's way good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and someone the other day told me, well, Tennessee Whiskey. And that's not even his original. David Allan Coe had that song.
Yeah. Oh God, David Allan Coe was awesome.
I saw him in
in
a pasture one time at a biker party.
Oh man. Oh, he's a piece of work.
I can't believe he's still alive.
Right?
I think he's pickled.
Yeah. That kind when you know. Yeah. Yeah, he did a lot. Yeah.
He has in his life. But boy,
he lived a big life. He lived it full.
And he looks like it, but boy, he's damn good.
Yeah.
Very, very. Mm-hmm. Please Come to Boston is one of the greatest songs ever.
Yeah. Well, how about, when you think about guys like, I mean, we're switching into a different musical genre, but look at Keith Richards.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. Did you see his ad for Louis Vuitton?
No.
I mean, you should Google it. It's really good.
Keith Richards,
I think
Louis?
Annie Leibovitz shot it.
Really?
Oh, it's really good. Oh yeah, it's really good. I mean, when you think of the Stones, typically when you think of a rock band, you think of the front man, right?
Yeah.
Not the Stones.
No, not him.
Not me. Not me. I don't think of Jagger first. I think Keith Richards.
You're right. Annie Leibovitz shot it. I'll have to look that up at the end whenever we're done here.
Yeah, it's a fantastic ad. It really is. I looked at it. I'm like, God, is he a badass?
But everything back then was so, I don't know the word for it.
Organic,
pure.
Organic,
soul,
dude.
Had heart.
That's what did it.
Everything.
You can't make it up. They would have done it if they hadn't got paid.
Right.
It had nothing to do with anything other than love for what they were doing.
Right. And I think that's everything in today's world. I think that's everything from hunting. How many guys would really hunt all season long if they didn't have Instagram, or if they didn't
10%.
have something that if they didn't have a reason to get out there? Nobody's doing it for the love, or not many people are just going out waterfowl hunting for the love of waterfowl hunting.
Mm-mm. No, I agree.
So it encompasses everything.
I agree. Yeah, it does. Culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's culture.
I don't like that.
Let's talk waterfowl hunting for a second. So,
yeah.
Do you think – I think the birds have a lot more pressure than they've ever had. Even though the hunter numbers are down, I think the birds are pressured far more than they ever were in the 70s.
Far more.
Just because you can access them everywhere.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those – I think it's one of those debates where if you go, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that. I agree, it is. It's all of those things, and all of those things add up to a problem, right? And maybe even a big problem, maybe a big problem that we need to start having real conversations about before something really bad, before we can't turn the aircraft carrier around.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, Jeff, back to your point there on what's going on or pressure with birds. We are really, really good at killing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Really good at it. Like, and I hear what you go, well, what do you mean? Well, back in the 70s, 80s, Dad had these field decoys, these like G&A, I believe they were G&H Henriettan field decoys. Yep. And, we had, I don't know, not that many, white geese or some honkers and the odd speck sprinkled in there. And we'd go to the prairie in Canada and we'd lay flat in stubble and try to cover up with straw. Now, for all the young fellas that go up to Canada, you'd go, how can you lay flat in the field? Well, back then everything was swathed, mm-hmm. and sometimes swathers had 18 inches of stubble. Well, you could get in the stubble and cover up and never be seen. But my point is, like, we'd go out, and if we had a double-digit day of killing birds, mm-hmm. 10, 12, 15, I mean, if you hit 20, I mean, you were killing, right? Mashing. I mean, shit. Now it's like, that'd be a bust.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a total bust. And I also remember back then, pintails and mallards would show up really, really early in the morning. And they also, back then, they fed 2 times a day, which is really odd that they don't do that anymore. But they'd come out really early in the morning, but we'd never shoot them in the field decoys because my dad said there's no way to kill a duck on a dry field. So we shot
them on a slough.
Ducks in the afternoon on water. But again, back then there was, I mean, way more water mm-hmm. to hunt back then than there is now. I mean,
see, when I was a kid in the 70s, I started shooting. I was born in 68, and I was with my dad hunting when in 1974, 75, me and Tony started. I was 6 and Tony was 4. My dad was dragging us with him to hunt all the time. And I remember when I got old enough to really start shooting, I probably was 9 years old, and I was shooting 1100. A 12 gauge 1100, and Tony was 7, and he would shoot whatever. But anyway, so I was 9, so that was 1977 and 78 when I actually was shooting a gun myself all the time. But the 3 of us would go out and we would kill 10 to 20 ducks sometimes. I've been on some hunts where we shot a whole lot more than that, but we would shoot mm-hmm. 10 to 20 birds. Well, we would kill 10 to 20, and we were very successful. I lived in a town with 100,000 people, and out of that 100,000 people, there wasn't 100 ducks being shot a day within miles of that place. There just wasn't that many people to shoot. They would go out and they'd kill 2, 3, 4 ducks, and that was it. Well, now you've got 500 outfitters. They're 50 to 100 birds a day they're killing. Well, we're shooting a lot of birds these days. But there was more people hunting back then. But if you went out with a family of 4 people and you killed 5 ducks, it was a good hunt because you went home and ate those ducks you killed.
Yep. Okay, there you hit the nail right on the head with that. Back in the day, people hunted birds, hunted ducks, and they killed what they ate.
Yes.
No one gifted birds back then.
Right.
No.
That didn't happen.
Right.
Right? You'd go out and catch crappies. You ate your crappies. You'd put a whitefish net out, and you'd take what you could for smoking or baking for that winter or whatever. Same thing with ducks and geese. When you didn't gift. You go up. You go out now and you see all these massive piles.
Right.
What's everybody doing with them?
Yeah. That's exactly right.
How many people did you know also back then that had more than a deep freeze in their house? I didn't know any. Now you go to find people that's got a barn dominium and they got these big walk-ins with all kinds of game and stuff that they've killed, and then they freeze or burn half of it and throw the shit away in 3 years.
There was still people back then when I was younger that they had an ice box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't. That wasn't even a freezer. They had an ice box. They didn't waste food,
No.
dude.
Mm-mm.
That didn't happen. It didn't happen in my house where I grew up. I can promise you that.
No, we had enough to eat because my dad told me, you're full. You've had enough to eat.
Yep. I don't want this to come off as being preachy either, because I really don't. I certainly don't mean that. But was it different? Oh my word, dude.
Yeah.
What's going on with harvest now? Like you talk about pressure. Oh my word, dude. There's a lot of pressure on them. There's pressure on ducks on their food every day from September 1st on.
Yep, till February 1st.
Never,
That's right.
That never happened before.
I as an outfitter, I make a living killing things.
Mm-hmm.
That's our goal is. Mm-hmm. But I would like to go to 3-bird limit. It can be 3 ducks. It can be 3 geese. It can be both, 3 and 3. But I would like to see us have a 3-bird limit. And a lot of outfitters are like, oh my God, you know what? Those people want to hunt. They're still going to come hunt, whether it's 8 or 3 birds. They're going to come hunt. Your business won't change a bit.
I would hope so.
Yeah,
I really do hope so. I mean, you remember back in the point system, and there were 100-point ducks back then. There was a 2-bird bag in a 30-day season there for a while. Nobody quit.
No.
Right.
What do you mean quit?
Yeah.
No.
What are you you can't quit. Are you a duck hunter or not?
Yeah. We need to. I don't care if the season stays the same amount of days, but I just want to see them go down to 3 birds per day, because what's going to do is it's going to take a lot of these. You take an outfitter and and you see this especially with the small geese, and they'll have 18 guys in a spread. You see it all the time, and they can shoot 8 birds. So their limit's 144 birds, and and that's what they're going to shoot. Well, you think really if you took those same 18 guys and you only shoot 54 birds, anybody's going to leave mad? No, that's the limit. You did perfect. Those people still want to hunt, but you're saving 100 birds a day from being shot. And that's what we need to do. We need to lower the limits.
Well, it would be a great podcast for you to get on a bunch of community dudes and at least open up the conversation, and let's start having real conversations about all kinds of things. Even if, you might, my logic might be skewed on one thing, and then somebody just straightens it out. Like
right.
a biologist or somebody goes, no, that's not how it happens. This is what goes on. But I think the time has come to have respectful conversations and debate over ethics, for sure.
Yeah, we just went
conservation, habitat. Habitat is always going to be number one, and I'll never get off that as being number one. Everything else can fight for number 2, but habitat's number 1, and we got it. And we need real conversations about that.
We just went through the dove season from hell from the freeze last year. We lost 75% of our dove. Well, nobody knew it until September. The state knew, but they didn't say nothing to nobody. Well, why? Because they want to sell all those hunt licenses they're going to sell. Now, every group we had would have still come and dove hunted. It's hunting. They like being around, the camaraderie, being at the lodge, all that stuff. But all of a sudden, we had a lot of dove in July, and then late August, we don't have no dove no more. And it's because the freeze, we pushed out the birds we had. We had a couple of fronts in August, and all the dove that are supposed to be here, they all died in the freeze last year. We shot dove this year that had no feet.
What?
Yeah, the freeze from February was so
frost,
harsh.
the freeze we had with that ice and that moisture, those doves' feet froze. And then I talked to somebody, and they say, "Oh yeah, we found 100 dead dove in our yard." Well,
are you talking about that nasty stretch when, like in Texas, they had power outage and that old deal?
In February.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, 75% of our dove died in that deal, but nobody knew.
What?
Yep.
75%?
That's what the state's telling us. 75% of the dove died during that deal.
That's a staggering number.
Imagine that with the goose or the ducks. I mean, and that's why we've got to start, like dove hunting. I would like to see our dove limit go down to 10 next year. Now, a dove's going to bounce back fast because they'll have 3 hatches in a year. They're like quail. We may have our whole 100% dove population again next year. It depends on what happens this spring. But you can have but this was a widespread death for all of Texas, Oklahoma, and these areas. And all I can figure out, what I have been told was the places that had moisture is where these dove died from. The cold is not really what got it. It was the cold and the wet.
Like pneumonia then or something.
I guess, but I mean.
They said a lot of these birds, like the ice would seal their beak shut. And then, it's just, you got 4 days, because how long did we go? 5 days?
We went 14 days or 15 days below freezing.
Right.
We were 2 weeks.
There were some that were like sub.
Oh, we stayed below zero, I think, for us 72 or 96 hours, and that don't happen for us.
Right.
Lee, this fat boy from Texas, you get down to single digits, and it's tough.
There were people here that were begging for firewood.
Yes.
Begging for firewood 4 days into it. And I'm thinking,
there's thousands of acres of mesquite wood around here.
I'm sorry that you're going through this, but we've known that this was coming for about 2 weeks now. And, you've had plenty of time to prepare to get firewood.
I had people steal firewood from me.
Steal?
Yeah, I walked out one day and half my firewood. I'm like, what the fuck happened? So I asked Michelle, I go, did you bring in a bunch of firewood, like a truckload? No. I said, someone's in it. And you know what? If someone would have asked me, I would have given them firewood.
God, we're getting soft.
Yeah, so I had to come out to the lodge and get firewood. But I would have given someone firewood. But you know what? I found out real quick, if we ever get into a problem where we have an EMP or nothing, there won't be very many liberals left in our country because they won't be able to survive without a Starbucks.
They'll be fucked.
They won't know what to do.
The good old boy will rise again.
Oh.
I want to talk. You've been on several times, and we've not talked about Adak Island. Is that how you pronounce it?
Adak.
Is that just the harshest place that you've ever been to?
Yeah, there's St. Paul.
Really?
St. Paul, yeah.
It does
St.
not
Paul,
look like a fun. It does not look like a fun hunt on Adak Island.
St. Paul, where?
The island, one of the Pribilofs.
Sounds like.
So if you look at the Aleutian chain, and the Aleutian chain goes like to Adak and then all the way out to Attu. If about halfway out there, if you go north, there's some Pribilof Islands out there, and St. Paul's one of those.
How far is that from Dutch Harbor?
And
relatively close.
Adak is Adak's probably 2.5 hours from Dutch Harbor. 2 hours flight. West out the end of the Aleutian chain, Dutch Harbor.
That's
trying to think. I've been there a few times.
Dutch Harbor's where the Japanese attacked us.
Huh?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that's the only place in American soil.
Adak.
Yep.
Adak was like a military base.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Now, is this the project with Donnie Vincent? Is this what you were up there for?
Yeah, Donnie was with. Yeah, Donnie was with first time I went there.
Winds of He did a whole series, Winds of Adak.
Well, we did the film, Winds Adak for Benelli when we launched the gun, the Lupo, that rifle.
Yeah.
And then I did some work with, I believe that was the 828 Upland gun, and then that was the year they were coming out with that best treatment on the Super Black Eagle 3. The best.
Yeah. That it just that whole it doesn't look fun. That doesn't look like something I want to do.
Adak's fun.
Is it? It looks miserable, cold and wet the whole time.
Well, it's cold. Well, it's not cold. It's 30, 28 to 34 degrees. I wouldn't call it cold.
Just windy and miserable.
It's pretty though.
Is it? It looked gorgeous.
It's awfully pretty, man. St. Paul's, like if you want to kill a king eider, you go to St. Paul. That's it.
Right.
And end of story. Done. Go to St. Paul. It's not pretty though. Adak's pretty. Adak is breathtaking.
Is St. Paul just been on a rock with a bunch of wind and ocean in your face?
Yep.
I had a buddy of mine went there, and he told me, he said, I never felt so small in the universe till I did that day.
St. Paul, when the wind's blowing, you realize how small we are.
Yeah,
it's St. Paul. The rock it's a rough son of a bitch there on the rock.
Lee and Ramsey Rustler are the two most interesting people I know. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, but Ramsey kills way more ducks than I do.
He's killing ducks now. He's just up in Montana, gets a phone call. Somebody says, "Hey,
he kills ducks every day. That's all that son of a bitch does is shoot ducks."
Well, if you could hunt anywhere that you haven't hunted, where would you go?
I saw. Okay, but that's a good question because you just said that I haven't been before. But I saw a filmmaker made a number of years ago, and I believe it was filmed in the Kamchatka region in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting better at growing grain. And I saw greenheads in that film that looked like it was from the 50s.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
What's this film called? Do you remember what it's called?
No, I don't.
Remember?
And it was a long time ago. I mean, I'd like to go explore like that area of Russia and see ground, because ag is what does it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what. There got to be food,
right? Ag does it, right? It's just like the Cordoba region in Argentina for hunting doves, right? It's flowers, right? I mean, they get roosts. There are 15 million doves on a roost. That's ag. That's because of ag practice, right? So, yeah, I think that would be fun. But I'm a homeboy. I really am. I've traveled and been around, especially, the photography that I've done and stuff like that. But I mean, I love hunting greenheads on water, and I love the prairie in the north, and I like hunting in the trees in Missouri and Arkansas, and I love the USA, dude.
So what would be the time that you would go back to? Would you go to Prairie Canada kind of when you were a young adult, or would you go back to northern Minnesota when you were a kid?
Prairie Canada.
Prairie Canada when you were adult, just full of piss and vinegar and burning down the road.
70s.
Not
on fire.
1978.
18 years old, just on fire, dude. Yep. I'd take that over anything.
1955.
Not even close.
1955, North Dakota.
No, I said something that he's personally done.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, if he did personally. Now, if I could go back and do anything, it would be like my dad telling me stories about the first years that he went to Saskatchewan was 1954. Mm-hmm. And the stories he would tell me about in the 50s were, mind-blowing. No geese, still the odd goose, right? But ducks and prairie birds like hell wouldn't have it, right?
Yeah, that's I love Nash Buckingham books. I would love to go back and live and ride around with Nash Buckingham and his old international scout and go. I would have loved to have seen that. And I grew up reading those books, and I fell in love with that when I was a kid. Just that life that the thing that and in these young people, and we got a lot of young guys that listen to this, and I say the flat build crews, and they take it personal, but it's just a different world today than what I grew up at when I first grew up, and to what
it is
30 years before that was the time to live in our country, just the whole America just as itself. I would love to go to 1955.
Right. Me too. I mean, in all fairness to the younger fellas out there, they also don't have the opportunity that I had in the 70s either.
Right.
No. They don't. I mean, it's not there for them.
Right.
Right. I'm not saying that they can't do it and they shouldn't go do it, but it's going to be different than it was back then. It's just like you can't go back and see the bands either, dude. Sorry, you're not going to see the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore, right? You ain't going to see it. It's over. Right. The 70s are gone, right? And quite honest, I looked at the 70s up in Canada, North Dakota, South Dakota, Prairie Canada, and it was outrageous. It was a DIYer's dream back then, right? But those opportunities are shrinking.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of people back then also that could leave for 2 weeks and just go hunt. Most places you worked, you got a week here, a week off, and 90% of people were married and had a family, and you just didn't just go
Right.
like you do now.
No, everybody worked.
And there wasn't no outfitters back then.
But that's probably why it's changed the most, is all these places where you could freelance, it's all taken up now.
Yes, it's a different world. Well, just out here. When I first got in the hunting business, I got in the hunting business by accident. It just was a passion that just kind of went into something, but there was nobody had nothing leased out here. We were the first people to lease anything up. And, we locked down, and I saw an opportunity, and that's why we locked it down. But I was knocking on doors just like everyone else did. But, hell, in 30 years' time, you went from no outfitters at all. There wasn't, in North Texas, which I'm counting Lubbock, Amarillo, and Wichita Falls area, this whole area up here, there wasn't 2 outfitters in 1980 in the business up here. And probably, I don't even know if there was one in 1980. But, now there's 100 of them. And that's changed the game, and the same with the Dakotas and stuff. I didn't get to go to the Dakotas until about 10 years ago. And when I went to the Dakotas and we knocked on doors and we got to go hunting and nobody told us no or nothing, I told them, I said, this is what the 1950s all over the United States must have been. It was like going back in a time warp. Well, now that's not even there, and North Dakota's not even that way anymore.
No, it's changed. It's changed a lot in one decade.
Yes.
Yeah, it has.
In 10 years, it's the Dakotas, Prairie, Canada has changed a ton in 10 years, in the past 10.
And everybody's hard on the younger kids, me included, but you got to look at the teachers that they had. Maybe they weren't taught the right way. Maybe they weren't taught the appreciation that we were.
I agree with you.
I don't know. I'm not. I quite honestly, like when I'm at consumer events or something with Boss, I mean, I love the young guys when they come up. I love talking to the young dudes.
Yeah,
I do.
You're the old legend, though.
I think I'm not a legend.
Oh, you are.
Lee.
Just a duck hunter.
You got to lean into it, Lee.
A duck hunting.
I'm a duck hunter with it. I'm a duck hunter with a camera. That's it.
Duck hunting legend. It makes you feel good though when you meet a kid that's in his 20s to 25 years old that comes up and appreciates you for being around doing it for a long time. It makes you feel good to realize that there are a lot of very good, young, respectable young men out there that are in the hunt. There's no doubt about that.
I think there's tons of them out there. In all honesty, I think there's. I mean, I hear the millennials, they get like a bad rap, for being entitled or this or that. But I mean, I can tell you, I personally think they're more receptive to conservation and habitat talk and shells that are non-toxic and getting things out of the environment that aren't cool. I wouldn't cut that age group short at all. I mean, especially the young moms,
right?
Like the young moms that are into the healthy food thing and that whole deal, right? I mean, I think that's a super cool vibe that they have going.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that this generation has is I think that they're pretty well in tune to let's do what's best for the environment, because that's kind of kind of a new shift, kind of like you're seeing, because the healthy food thing, that's only a couple years old. I mean, there were always some moms that did it, but you didn't see it like you do now, where it's natural grocers and stuff like that. That's within the last decade.
Smokers.
Right.
The young smokers are polite and thoughtful smokers. An old guy my age and to 75 years old are the rudest smokers in the world, because they don't want to go outside to smoke, and they don't want to do. They're used to just being able to light up because that's the world they grow up in. So smokers, and the young people they're wired different when it comes out, and we need that.
Hey, I'll lay one on you. This is real. This really happened. So a couple weeks ago, I'm talking to a old, I guess you'd call him an old buddy, hunting acquaintance of mine. I don't see him very often anymore, but back in the day, and was telling me about hunting prairie birds out in western North Dakota, and shooting whatever he was shooting or whatever. And he told me, and he knows about Boss and all that. And so he's telling me about the best shell ever made, some lead number 5 or 6 mate or whatever for upland birds or whatever. It's you've heard me talk about lead. It's undeniable, right? It's the gold standard. It's good. Mm-hmm. It's cheap. It's easy to make. It's just incredibly toxic, and it needs to get out of the environment.
Right.
That's all there is to it, right? But anyway, he was telling me about that shell, and I said, dude, you really ought to be shooting non-toxic stuff out there and get that stuff out of the environment. Honest to God, his answer was, nobody saved me any buffalo.
Ooh, wow.
No shit. Like, cool, dude. Later.
Wow.
Hung the phone up. Now, back to Jeff's point, right? Like an old smoker versus a new smoker, right?
Yep.
I get that anti no tox stuff way more from dudes my age than I do the so-called millennials.
Right. Yes, that's
way more. The millennials, like, you can lay it out there for them, and they'll go, really? Why are we still shooting that?
Right.
I don't know, dude. Why are we? And they go, and and like I say, and if there's a mom there, she ain't having any of it. Right? No lead.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that just goes back to the fact that these young kids are just needing a good influence and somebody to just kind of show them the way of doing things, show them the right way, show them the ethical way, show them the way that it should be done. You can't talk to somebody that's done it the same way for 50 years because he's stuck in his way. And just like he said, well, fuck it. You didn't say that. Nobody saved me any buffalo. So fuck this next generation.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm. There's no,
but if the young kids can be shown the right way, they're very receptive.
I think the great ones and the good ones are like young bird dogs, right? You just got to show it to them.
Right.
And once they see it and you're like, yeah, man, that's the way to do it. Yeah. That makes good sense, right? It's lots of this stuff is education, and and again, I'm going to use the word preachy. I don't want to be that guy at Boss, but education is a big part of the Boss narrative, right? Why? Right. Why are you doing this? Why are you making that shell? Why do you talk about unleaded? Why do you talk? Man, because there's issues out there, and it's up to us to solve them.
Well, and if you're not the one saying it, then they're going to look at some jackass on Instagram that's piling up birds by the thousands, that's doing it the wrong way, and then that's what they think that they have to emulate. But if a company, if a man like you that's been around and seen the things that you have, and a company like Boss can say, like, no, that's wrong, and this is why. This right here is why. These kids, you've got to be out there. Because otherwise they'll just find some dickhead, and that's who they follow.
Well, I don't know the numbers by any means, but there's more lead shot in Texas in dove season than there is anything during waterfowl. So we still put more lead out there.
Yep.
I grew up when we went from the lead to the steel, and it was travesty.
It's a disaster.
It was horrible.
It is. It is a disaster. And it still is.
Yeah. And so now we have an alternative, and it works. How long until we go to completely lead-free shells is what I want to – because you can still shoot sandhill cranes with lead, I think, can't you?
Yes.
I think you can shoot dove and sandhill cranes with lead. I'm almost positive on that.
Okay. Well, I'd take your – I don't know. I don't hunt cranes.
I think that –
I mean, I would. I just don't.
Well, I think that you can, but I think that's based on – they didn't want lead in the water supplies, and that's why they got rid of the lead in the first place. Am I correct on that?
Well, man, and then to answer your question that you were leading, it's coming regardless whether you want it to come or not. It's going to happen.
Oh, it is. It's going to. There's no doubt about that.
It has to, but it should happen. You get lead out of everything. Why are we still shooting it? Right. Why are we putting it into the environment? And people go, are you telling me that a bobwhite quail really runs around and he picks up a lead pellet and dies? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Well,
have you ever read that study? I think he's a biologist from Missouri, and he did a study on lead poisoning on mourning doves. It's freaking staggering.
Really?
It's staggering how many doves die due to lead poisoning a year. Ooh. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Jeez.
Well,
I'll have to check that out.
The
20 million. 15 million lost I'll find the report and I'll send you that one too.
I'm trying to find out if you can shoot lead at cranes.
I'm pretty sure you still can.
I bet you can. That sounds right. They're not waterfowl.
Yeah,
so.
it's basically was based on what they did though when they first did it was getting in your drinking water and you're hunting ducks on lakes.
I believe that.
And I think the first year that you went from lead to steel, if you hunted on public water, you had to be using steel before a year or two before it went everywhere. I think. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the whole deal. But
what about because aren't fishing weights? Aren't they still made out of lead?
That's another big deal. Yes.
That's coming.
Yeah.
That's in like Minnesota outdoors talk
right
all the time right now. Legislature, lots of articles being written on split shot lead sinkers getting out.
How many of them
going to tungsten?
How many of them in the lakes in Minnesota? You think? How many pounds of them?
Oh boy,
because it never disintegrates.
Oh boy,
it's still there.
No, the stuff's nasty, dude.
Yeah,
there's no getting around it. It's nasty, and it needs to get out of the environment. Why as a hunting community? Why do we have to wait for the government to tell us what to do? Hell, we always talk about how anti-government we are. Are we really? Why don't you fucking do it now, dude?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right? Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Before they tell us. You know what, dude? You don't even need to tell us to do it. We already did it. It's gone.
Right.
Done.
I don't get it. That's a very good point. Like, why?
Tell me what to
waiting?
do.
Why are we waiting?
What are you waiting for?
You know it's bad. You know what it does to the environment. What are you waiting for?
And I think that's
what are we waiting for?
I think that's changed. I mean, I think that's already happened though.
With what?
It's changing.
If I went into a store, the only way that people would shoot lead today is because it'd be cheaper. It's the only reason why.
That is why they do it.
That's the only reason.
That is why.
I remember as a kid, we'd go into Gibson's store in Wichita Falls, and my dad would buy bags of 6-shot or 4-shot and reload ourselves, and you could buy a bag of, I don't even know how much, it was cheap, but that's why they did it. But just for that reason only.
Oh,
and
lead's cheap.
Yeah, and I don't even know what other uses lead has other than pencils. I'm sure there's some things that they use it for still, but
it's
not
not
much.
lead, is it? It's graphite, isn't it?
Oh, I don't even know what's in a pencil now.
I don't think it's lead.
It used to be lead.
Yeah,
but
it's not anymore.
I don't know I don't know either.
So
is it in batteries still?
Lead?
I got a spot on my arm. A kid stabbed me in 3rd grade, and I had lead.
Still there?
Yeah. Still there from 3rd grade.
I'm looking.
Everybody got stabbed with
I mean, it was just life. It was just a mark you had.
Everybody did.
You're going to die from lead poisoning. I don't think so. It's still there.
They don't put it in paint anymore.
You used to put it in paint that they used to cook on, and they thought for a long time that's what called Alzheimer's, and I think they're figuring out that that's not it either.
Gasoline.
Gas, yeah.
Doubt.
Unleaded.
Huh. Did you ever buy some ethyl gas?
No.
You never bought ethyl?
I don't think so.
It was.
I don't think so.
Did you buy regular?
Before unleaded?
Yeah, I used to buy regular when I was 16 all the time.
Regular.
It was cheap.
Regular. 28 cents a gallon is the lowest I remember.
I think it was 49 maybe when I was a kid. I remember when you could
28.
I remember when when I was little, my mom would go in and like give me $2 and she'd get $2 worth of gas, and she'd get a half tank for $2.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays you get $2, you get a quarter of a tank.
Yeah. Fuck, not even.
I mean, a quarter of a gallon. A quarter of a gallon.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say
$100 to fill up now.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts.
$100 bill.
Yeah.
So how long are you gonna be in Missouri for?
2 days. I'm gonna hunt tomorrow morning and then hunt Friday and hang out with the mayor for a while, and then I'm gonna go to Falco.
Okay.
They do something kind of every year. A bunch of industry dudes get together down there for a weekend, and it's I went in 2018 and Brandon went in 19 and Zach went last year, so it's my turn in the rotation. So
beautiful.
I'll go down there for that, and then I'm going to head up to Bridgman, Michigan, and hang out with Zach and Brandon at the shop and see what's going on.
Does Falco have any geese yet? Because I hadn't heard about any geese hardly in northern Oklahoma.
I don't know.
We don't have in Southwest Oklahoma at our place there. We've got ducks, but it's a few geese. But there's not very many geese down yet.
Not yet. They must be in Kansas, huh?
Kansas, probably.
The Dakotas, Nebraska.
I bet there's a pile. Well, you got the white geese are down, or white-fronted geese. Specks are down.
Yes.
We got
south already.
We got a ton of those.
We're loaded with specks right now.
A ton.
Oh my God, man! That area in Arkansas I was at was there specks there. Oh my, wow!
And that's another thing that's changing.
That's a calendar bird too.
Well, I mean, and just the explosion of the speckled-belly population. There's so many guys that I talk to that I talk to on a daily basis. Like, we didn't have specks, and now we've got a ton of specks. Just like Arkansas, they weren't. Now they're, they could be the speck capital of the world.
All the birds.
Well, you know, Case and Short at Byers Hunters Club there in Brinkley, Arkansas.
That doesn't ring a bell. Case and Short.
I mean, Cason, yeah. I don't know how many specks he's got there on that place, but I think I was there a week ago, and I think he said there was like 35 or 40,000 there at that time. He goes, but pretty quick there'll be 120.
I believe it. We're probably pushing those numbers here.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's a staggering number for one area, one farm.
We've been running geese, and this is no shit. We've been running geese since about October 7th. Having to run them off peanuts because they don't eat us out. And we've been good. And I've got two guys.
What kind of geese?
What
geese?
Specks.
The specks.
Specks?
Yeah.
Beating up peanut fields?
Yes,
I've got two guys.
Man.
We got two guys working full time. That's all they do is run geese. Tomorrow morning is the first time we're not going to run geese now until season. We won't run them again.
Because with the peanut fields,
once they're gone, they're gone.
When the peanuts are gone, that field's
right.
You might as well fucking deep plow it.
Right. Hey, are you guys seeing greenheads down there earlier and earlier?
No.
In the season or not?
Not here.
Nope.
No.
So not that far south.
No.
No. Okay.
And to be honest with you, it also depends on our water situation. We're in a drier year, so duck hunting in Texas, like, we're going to need some cold weather and we're going to need a little bit of moisture.
Gotcha.
We will see a ton of pintails. That's always a staple down here. Widgeon, but it's greenheads. It's got to be real cold up north, so for us to see them where we are.
Well, hopefully we get some cold this year. Cold is always good for it. Well, it's just good. It's supposed to get cold.
Yeah, no shit.
It's supposed to.
That's what I need. I got
good for.
Like I said, I got
it's good for everything.
A closet full of Filson that I want to wear this year.
That's right. It's good for cold is good for everybody, man. Trust me.
Lee, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I know that you're on the road right now, so we are going to let you burn down some miles. Good luck this weekend. Have safe travels going to Oklahoma, and we hope that this season is great for you, and we'll catch you somewhere down the line.
Thanks for having me on, and hey, I got to send you that lead poisoning paper.
Yep.
I got to send you that, and then I'm going to try to find that Stevie Ray Vaughan doing Little Sister live. you got to check that
check
one
it out,
dude.
Lee.
All right, later,
you're
boys.
Awesome as always.
Be
bud.
safe, Lee.
Safe
travel, and God bless, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Bye. What a legend.
He's an interesting man. I'm telling you, him and Ramsey are the two coolest dudes in America.
What a guy. He has seen some shit.
Done a lot of cool stuff. Lives by his creed. We need more of that in the world. A lot of jealous people that wish they lived that life.
And like he said, we don't need to beat up on the younger crowd, because I think it's more just a lack of somebody showing them the right way.
I don't think it's a beat up as much as they learn different, but it's
a different
they
world
do
too.
things. I deal with more 55-year-old assholes than I do 25-year-old assholes.
Yes,
by far.
Yes,
not even close.
Yeah, whenever we have a younger group out here, they're always very, very receptive to what
they do. What they're told.
Easygoing. It's a different crowd.
It's not like trying to teach an old dog new tricks.
Right.
Now, I do deal with every once in a while. I run it. I did a couple of years in Oklahoma. Ran into that 19-year-old kid that's a smart ass and stuff. That happens.
He knows more than everybody.
He was a smart ass because his dad didn't beat his ass when he was a kid. But there's very few of them like that.
And I'm sure you were a smart ass at 19.
Just when I talked.
All right.
But it wasn't because my dad didn't beat my ass ever.
No.
It was just because I was born that way.
He couldn't beat it out of you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right. You got anything else?
Nope.
I'm about to piss myself.
Thank you. God bless y'all, and have a great week.
Well, you didn't have to end it that fast, Jeff. No. Go check out all of our great sponsors. Check out Shin Gear Waders, Boss Shot Shells, Dive Bomb Industries, Pacific Call, Steak Plains Meats, Dirty Duck Coffee, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, Gundog Outdoors, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, Goose Creek Retrievers, Bangtail Whiskey, and Eyesight Drones.